Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Creation Miss Couture, and today is not a dye pan week. It is something a little different that I'm going to try to do. So normally what we do on this channel is we just play with colors, we play with color theory, we dye yarn, we dye fabrics, we are exploring the beautiful world of the textiles and fiber arts in general. However, I wanted to chronicle a little bit behind the scenes a little bit more and share with you what it's like to be an independent yarn dyer at home, because I do this from my basement in my home office. So I just wanted to chronicle this. So today is going to be the first episode of maybe a weekly vlog of what's happening behind the scenes or what's happening in the life of an independent yarn dyer. So without further ado, let's get into what I did last week. So last weekend I had the chance to attend the Twist Yarn Festival in Saint-André-Avelin in Quebec. So this was my first attendance. So here you can see the back of my father's vans, who very kindly let me use his van to grab all my stuff that I had shipped on a pallet over there at my parents' place, and I was able to use that, and I'm very thankful for that. I was able to create a super cute booth with everything that I usually use. Here you can see the palette I was talking about. Everything was set up, and just like that, it was already time to go back home, where I went straight into doing a quick inventory of what I have left. I've noticed that I was missing a few yarn base because after Yarn Festival, that's what I usually like to do, reorder my usual stuff so that way I can be able to have everything if someone do a dye to order request. And here what I've done is I'm getting ready to dye up my Halloween advent calendar. So this was a pre-order that I've done a while back. Now it's time for me to choose the colors from my from the mood board I created a little bit ago. So you can see I'm untwisting everything. I'm putting the small skeins onto my zip ties so that way I'm able to pre-soak them. So usually when it comes to pre-soak, if you're going to be dyeing yarn that is non-superwash, I prefer to do like an overnight soak just to make sure that everything is perfectly done. And if you need to add some citric acid, you can do it then. I usually only do citric acid in my water if I need to do speckling. Other than that, I don't usually introduce any acidity in my soaking water prior. If you're doing non-superwash, that's what I would do. If you're doing superwash, I usually just do like half an hour before. Well, no, that's not true actually. I usually do at least a minimum of half an hour. So here I'm pre-soaking this the night prior because my little one is currently out of school, so I need to split my times and most of the work gets done later in the evening. So that way I will have everything ready and set up for the next day when I am dyeing my yarn. And when it comes to my experimentation process, sometimes I will show it on YouTube, sometimes I won't, but most of the time I have a rough idea of the colors I'm going to choose. I have a mood board, and sometimes I will even write down a tentative recipe so that way I can start from somewhere. I don't like to start from scratch. When I first started, it was usually from scratch, and now that I understand a little bit better how things work, how colors work together and all that jazz, it's a little bit easier for me to have a preconception of what it's going to look like once it's dyed. Especially if I'm doing a fade and stuff like that, I know how the colors will tangle between each other and stuff like that, so that way I know what I'm doing. And here you can see I already have my bucket of butter. Ooh, those are not words. My bucket of water. So I will be able to put my minis in there and let it soak overnight like I mentioned earlier. So this is what we're doing here. And then I'm going to just quickly clean up my workstation, so that way I have the space that I need to be able to select my colors and everything. And like I mentioned, I usually have a rough idea of what I'm going to do when it comes to color wise, but here you can see some of the colors that I have from Dharma Trading Co. I have 2 drawers of the small jars. Those are 2-ounce jars, and they last forever if you don't use a whole lot of them. But the colors that I use the most, I have though they're 8-ounce jars that I absolutely adore, and even that, like, it's going to last you quite a long time. So you can see that I'm currently setting up my workstation for the next day when I will be ready to dye the minis that I've showed you. So what I usually do is I put the colors in order of layers and or steps. And this is the next day where I'm starting to grab all the random skeins of yarn that I have across many spots in my house, because like I mentioned, I think I mentioned it, I do all my dyeing in the basement, and the recording of most of the stuff and photos and stuff happens in my home office, which means that I have a bunch of random skeins scattered across my house. So from time to time, it just needs to be done. And you can see here, I have a clothesline for drying my yarns. Because, like I mentioned, I have limited space due to the fact that I do all my dyeing in my basement. I do not have the capacity at this time, or the money, to be completely honest, to rent a space dedicated to dyeing, and I'm okay with that. Like, it's fine, we can do it. So yes, so my husband installed that clothesline, and it's been super helpful. It really did help to speed the process for me for the dyeing, because I have the space. So this is what we're doing here, and now we will be putting everything back onto skeins. And you can see I already had like a small stuff of already twisted skeins onto my little desk there. So I have an electric hand twister, and it's been one of the best investment I have possibly done in the business. That and the spin dryer really helped a lot when it comes to that. Okay, so now those skeins that you see, most of them are experiments that I've done either for YouTube videos or just color tests, because it's important to understand how colors will react and also how it's going to play with the yarn, because usually your yarn is not pure white. It's either cream color, like some of them are even yellow, but you also have gray yarn, especially when it comes to yak. So you will have some brown, some grays, some colors that are very close to black, and you will have the naps that can play with that. So it's important to understand how colors will react with your base stuff. So all those experiments that I'm doing that becomes friends across the house that you will find here and there, they usually will end up in my sales bins when I go to markets. So I don't know if you remember, I think I have a photo of it. Let me check. So here's my photo. So I have this wall in my booth at every market, and this wall is full of those skeins. So this is my discount bins that I really like to bring with me, because those skeins of yarn are still completely good. They're fine. They haven't burned. Some of them have little mistakes here and there. So for example, I had some of them that are like the color broke, and you will have some speckles here and there, and like if I don't clean up my zip ties properly, you will have like transfer from those zip ties. So they're fine, they're good. They just need to find a right home. And this is also one of the reasons why I like to test colors on fingering weight yarn, because people that make socks, they like to have funky socks, okay? And they don't mind if there's one speckles here and there. Usually people will just see the color and they will be happy with that. So I have those sales bins, and they're fantastic for that, because I'm able to recoup a good portion of that, and I am able to give yarn at a discounted price that is still like that. It doesn't make it that I'm in the red in my accounting books, you know? And yeah, so this is why I have that. And for example, people really enjoy a good bargain and to thrift and stuff like that. So just for example, for the Twist Festival I just did last week, I sold 127 skeins from my sales bins. So this is fantastic for me because, like I said, if I need to move stuff, random stuff like end of lots, previous collections, and things like that, I can always count on my discount bins to attract customers. And when they see those colors, sometimes they will even pair it with regular color stuff. So just something to keep in mind if you're an indie dyers and you want to attract people, maybe consider to have a few discounted bins at your booth, so that way you can count on those sales, and it's really nice. So this is one of the reasons why I've had that, because also sometimes you want to test out yarn base. I've tested out a few yarn base that I did not necessarily enjoy working with, so I didn't reorder any more of those base, but I dyed the entirety of the stuff that I have. Some of them are pretty unique colors and stuff like that, and they all ended up into my discount bins. And I just noticed how much I like to not wear socks and or shoes, and I should probably start wearing shoes when I'm working. Yeah, would probably be a good idea. Oh well, enjoy my feet, I guess. Oh, sorry, that was weird. Why did I say that? Oh gosh. So yes, so my hang twister is from a company in Montreal. They all make those, and they also make a caker. So they call it the caker that I also have. So it's an electric yarn caker. How is it? What's the name of those things? Because instead of doing it by hand, you're caking your hanks with the electric thing, and I really like it. And one of the reasons I do not offer the service of caking the yarn is because I absolutely hate caking yarn. Even though I have the electric tool, I still hate it, so I don't offer it. But I do know that some people offer that service, and kudos to them, because I could not be bothered to do that. I absolutely detest doing this. So let's refocus, because I absolutely lost focus of what I was doing here. So we are done with the skeins that we had, and now we need to wash off my zip ties, because like I mentioned, we don't want to cross-contaminate anything. So usually what I do with my zip ties is the first wash is with bleach. So I will do a first cycle of hot water, bleach, and all my zip ties, and I will do then a second cycle, and it's just like quick cycles, right? It's less than 10 minutes each, to help clean them properly. So the second cycle will be with gentle soap that is neutral, and there's no scent into those, because when I'm dyeing, I don't want to incorporate anything that could create an allergic reaction. So yes, and I use my washing machine because it is so much more efficient than I could do it by hand, and it saves me time, and I know for a fact that they will be bleached, so I love that. And now what we're doing is I'm prepping the pans that I'm going to be using to dye my experiment for my Halloween advent calendar inspired by the movie It. So like I said, we did the prep the day before to have everything pre-soaked and ready to go when it's time. So I have my pan there. I just added the citric acid in the bottom of the pan, and we're going to be adding 8 cups. No, is it 8 cups of tap water that I did? Yes, it was 8 cups of tap water. And here you can see that I'm prepping also my cups to be able to do my stock solutions that I'm going to use on those skeins. Yeah, now I'm adding my 8 cups of tap water. That makes sense. And after that, we're going to be adding the minis into the pan, because we're going to be doing a fade. So I will be putting my 6 minis into the pan, one next to each other, so that way they will receive the colors that I want. So that's pretty much what we're doing. So yes, so those are classic socks mini skeins that I have. So they are 80-20, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. They're recycled nylon. So I don't know exactly how they recycle the nylon, but that's what it is. And it's my favorite yarn base to use. I just absolutely love the 80-20. I just think it's perfect, especially when you're doing socks and stuff like that, because it's slightly thicker than the regular sock yarn, just due to the fact that you have a tiny bit more of the wool merino in it compared to the nylon. It makes it it makes it a little sturdier. So you could see I was just recounting to make sure that I had the right amount of minis. And like I mentioned, even if I was not happy with the final result of this, it's okay because it's sock yarn. It will find a home. I can always count on just fingering and sock weight yarn to find a new home. So here you can see I'm turning on the heat and I have my gloves on, and it is black and white because I don't want to show you the colors just in case the people who purchased my advent calendar see this video. I don't want to spoil the color reveal for them. Just, because I don't want to. We are going to do a 5-color fade in this case. And after I finished filming, I realized that it was missing something. And basically what it was missing was speckles. I'm a speckle bitch. What can I say? I absolutely love that. So, I guess that was a spoiler. But that's fine. You don't see it. But yes, so this is a fade that people can use that way. And it will be accompanied by 6 tonals as well, and a full skein with the same color scheme ish. So people can use it to do either a shawl, which I would recommend because that could be fun, or they could probably there is a lot of really fun garments that are created with fades and also with advent calendars in mind. So I think that is something that could be done, or even like a weather blanket that could be a pretty good thing they could do. And that's what I'm thinking of when I'm creating those advent, because when I'm creating an advent calendar, I'm also thinking about the wearability. If people want to use it for a garment, for example, how wearable it will be. I don't like to dye yarn that looks prettier in a hank than when it is either knitted or crocheted or weaved and stuff like that. I'm not a big weaver, so this is a place that I could improve quite a bit, in my personal opinion, when it comes to creating yarn. Because when I'm creating yarn, and I'm really more thinking about knitters and crocheters than any other form of textile art, so I apologize for that. And after all that, here we have the stuff on the stove, and now we have the disaster after, but that's for Catherine of the future. And if you like the video, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you next one very soon. Bye!